The customs officer's whisper cut through the noise of JFK International Airport like a blade through silk. Act like I'm detaining you and stay quiet. Her words paralyzed me where I stood, passport still extended in my trembling hand. The chaos of Terminal 4 faded into nothing. It was just the two of us now. Her dark eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my stomach drop. What? The word barely escaped my lips. Don't turn around. Don't make any sudden movements. Your life is in danger right now. Each syllable was measured, barely audible, but they hit me with absolute clarity. Come with me like you're being detained. Trust me on this. I'm 52 years old. I built my career from nothing, clawing my way up from a secretary position to CEO of my own consulting firm. I've survived corporate backstabbing, hostile takeovers, and cutthroat negotiations that would make most people crumble. I don't scare easily. But standing there at customs, watching this officer's face, I felt the ground shift beneath my designer heels. "Ms. Catherine Walsh," she announced loudly, her voice now cold and professional. "I need you to come with me to the secondary inspection area. There's an irregularity with your travel documents." Behind me, I heard my daughter's voice crack with worry. "Mom, what's happening?" "Don't worry, miss," the officer replied, without looking at me. "This is standard procedure. Please wait in the departure lounge." "But Mom, wait in the lounge," the officer repeated firmly. I walked beside her, feeling every eye in the security line burning into my back. My daughter Emma and her husband Derek stood frozen, watching as two additional security personnel materialized from nowhere to flank us. My heart hammered against my ribs. What was happening? Why did this feel like so much more than a routine check? 6 months. That's how long it's been since I buried my husband Marcus. Pancreatic cancer, swift and merciless. One morning we were discussing retirement plans, the cruises we'd finally take now that I was stepping back from the business. The next morning, doctors gave us 6 months. He lasted 4. His final wish haunted me every single day. "Promise me you'll fix things with Emma," he'd said from his hospital bed, his once strong voice reduced to a whisper that shattered my heart. "Promise me you won't shut her out like I know you want to. Promise me you'll let her in." I'd promised through tears that wouldn't stop falling. I'd promised him. That's why I'd planned this trip. 3 weeks in Italy, Florence, Venice, the Amalfi Coast, just the three of us. A chance to rebuild what had broken between us, to bridge the distance that had grown over years of my 60-hour work weeks and missed moments. To honor Marcus's memory by becoming the family he'd always begged us to be. I'd spent months planning every detail. 5-star hotels, Michelin-starred restaurants, private tours of galleries and vineyards. I spared no expense. I wanted perfection. I wanted to prove to Emma that her mother could be more than a workaholic who'd missed her college graduation for a board meeting. And now, minutes before boarding, a customs officer was telling me my life was in danger. We entered a windowless office that smelled of stale coffee and fear. The officer locked the door behind us. 2 plastic chairs faced a metal desk with a computer monitor mounted on the wall. "Ms. Walsh, my name is Federal Agent Diana Chen. I need to show you something, but you need to remain calm." "What's going on?" My voice came out sharper than intended. The executive tone I used in hostile negotiations. "Why did you pull me out of line?" "Because we just saved your life." The words landed like stones in still water. Agent Chen turned on the monitor. Security footage from the airport appeared. I recognized the check-in area where we'd been 30 minutes earlier. "Watch carefully," she said. On screen, I saw Emma and Derek standing behind me in line. They looked normal, chatting casually about something. Then Agent Chen fast-forwarded to the moment I'd stepped up to weigh my luggage. "Look here," she pointed. I watched Emma take something from her purse. A small glass vial, no bigger than my thumb. She passed it to Derek with a movement so practiced, so casual that anyone would have missed it. He glanced around, checking sightlines like a professional thief. Then my blood turned to ice. My daughter's husband unscrewed my water bottle. The stainless steel one I've left in my carry-on, while sorting my passport and boarding pass. The camera captured the exact moment he tipped the vial's contents into my water. He screwed the cap back on, placed the bottle exactly where it had been, all in less than 8 seconds. No, the word came out broken. That's not possible. There's more, Agent Chen said, her voice gentle now, almost apologetic. She switched to different footage. The airport parking garage, 2 hours earlier. Emma and Derek stood beside my Range Rover. She was handing him the vial, and Agent Chen increased the volume. The audio was grainy, but certain words cut through crystal clear. During the flight, 8 hours is plenty. It'll look completely natural. Heart attack. The business stays in my name. The will's clear. Nobody's going to question it. Middle-aged woman, recently widowed, stress of international travel. The room tilted. I collapsed into the chair, my lungs unable to find air. My daughter. My only child. The baby I'd carried for 9 months. The toddler whose nightmares I'd chased away. The teenager I'd fought with and loved and struggled to understand. That same daughter had just tried to poison me. How? My voice cracked like thin ice. How did you catch this? Pure luck, Agent Chen admitted. One of our behavioral analysis specialists was reviewing footage as part of a training exercise. She flagged the suspicious movement. When we reviewed the full sequence and saw what your son-in-law did, we knew we had to act immediately. The vial? What was in it? Our forensics team recovered it from the trash can where your son-in-law disposed of it. They're still running full analysis, but preliminary results. She paused, measuring her words. Miss Walsh, if you'd consumed that water during your flight, you wouldn't have survived to landing. I stared at the frozen image on screen. Derek's back to the camera, my water bottle in his hand, the vial tipped over the opening. Emma watching, making sure no one noticed. Marcus died 6 months ago. My daughter couldn't even wait a year. Why? The question emerged like a wounded animal's cry. I have a will. Everything goes to her anyway. The business, the properties, the investments, all of it. Why not just wait? Agent Chen looked at me with something resembling pity. Maybe she didn't want to wait. Maybe she has debts you don't know about. Maybe... She stopped. Maybe greed doesn't need logic, Miss Walsh. I remembered something Marcus had said, maybe 8 months before his diagnosis. We'd been having dinner, one of those rare evenings when I wasn't working until midnight. Emma worries me, he'd said suddenly, staring into his wine glass. Why? I'd asked, distracted by emails on my phone. I don't know. Something about how she talks about money. How Derek looks at her when they discuss your business. Like they're waiting. Waiting for what? For us to be gone. I'd laughed, told him he was being paranoid, seeing problems where none existed. That Emma was our daughter. She loved us. We'd given her everything. Marcus hadn't pushed it. But now, watching this security footage, I remembered the sadness in his eyes that night. The way he'd looked at me like he knew something I refused to see. He'd seen it. He'd seen what I, blinded by work and guilt and my desperate need to believe I'd been a good enough mother, had refused to acknowledge. Miss Walsh, Agent Chen's voice pulled me back. You need to make a decision. We can arrest them right now. We have sufficient evidence. The footage, the vial, forensic analysis. They'll face serious prison time. What's the alternative? This is Revenge Stories, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you feel my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Help us build this community so we can bring more interesting and exciting stories for you from around the world. Your help is much appreciated. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. You continue with your original plan, Agent Chen said, leaning forward. Board the plane as if nothing happened. We'll give you a new water bottle, uncontaminated, and we'll have agents on the flight monitoring every move they make. Why would I do that? I interrupted. Why not arrest them now and be done with it? Because if we arrest them now, they'll hire lawyers, expensive lawyers that your money will ultimately pay for. They'll claim the evidence is manipulated, that someone else could have touched that bottle, that this is all a terrible misunderstanding. And maybe, just maybe, they'll find a way to get the charges reduced or dismissed entirely. She paused, making sure I understood every word. But if you board that plane, if you go on this trip, they'll believe their plan worked. They'll get comfortable. They'll make mistakes. And we'll document everything. When we finally arrest them, there won't be a lawyer in the world who can save them. My mind, trained through decades of high-stakes business decisions, began calculating. How long do I have to decide? Your flight boards in 40 minutes. I need an answer in 5. 5 minutes to choose between immediate justice and guaranteed justice. 5 minutes to decide if I had the strength to look my daughter in the eyes, knowing she just tried to kill me. I thought of Marcus, of his grave so fresh, the flowers I brought last week hadn't wilted yet. I thought of all the times he'd defended Emma to me, explained away her distance, her coldness, her constant questions about my estate planning. She's just worried about you, he'd say. She loves you in her own way. I thought of how she'd waited barely 6 months after his death to try to murder me. I'm getting on that plane, I said, my voice steady, and I'm going to learn exactly who my daughter really is. Agent Chen nodded slowly. I understand this is your choice, but you need to fully comprehend the risks. I understand them perfectly, I cut her off. But you said you'd have agents watching? Correct. 2 undercover agents will be on your flight, 1 in business class, 1 in economy. They'll monitor every movement your daughter and son-in-law make. Then I'm physically safe. Physically, yes. Agent Chen looked at me with compassion. Emotionally, that's another story entirely. She was right. Surviving a poisoning attempt was one thing. Sitting next to your would-be killer for an 8-hour flight, pretending ignorance, that was something else entirely. What do I tell them when I walk out of here? I asked. Emma will have questions. We'll say there was an error with your entry visa for Italy. Now resolved. The delay was 15 minutes. Long enough to be credible but not suspicious. And my water bottle? The contaminated one is already in our lab. We'll give you an identical replacement, still sealed. They won't notice the difference. I stood, my legs trembling slightly beneath my linen trousers. 52 years of facing down corporate raiders had taught me to control my emotions. Now I'd need every ounce of that training. One last thing, I said before Agent Chen opened the door. When this is over, when you have all the evidence you need, I want to see them. I want to look them both in the eyes and ask them why. You'll have that opportunity, Miss Walsh. I promise you that. We walked back to the departure area. I felt curious eyes tracking us. Passengers wondering what had happened to the woman the authorities had detained. I saw Emma and Derek waiting near gate 47. When Emma spotted me, she rushed over, her face painted with concern. Mom, are you okay? What happened? That worry in her voice, that perfect daughter act. If I hadn't seen the footage, I would have believed she genuinely cared. Visa error for Italy, I said with a tired smile. It's resolved now. Just bureaucratic nonsense. You scared us, Derek said, putting his arm around my shoulders like the caring son-in-law. We thought they might cancel the trip. I looked into his eyes. Hazel eyes, handsome, trustworthy looking. The same eyes that had watched while he poured poison into my water bottle. No cancellations, I replied. Everything's fine. We can board now. The agent who'd escorted me back discreetly pressed a new water bottle into my hand. Your documents, Miss Walsh, she said loudly. Sorry for the inconvenience. I took the bottle, identical to my original, but without the poison that would have killed me somewhere over the Atlantic. Let me carry that for you, Catherine, Derek said, reaching for my carry-on bag. You should rest. The perfect son-in-law, the the model husband, the ideal couple, and beneath that polished facade, two people who'd planned my murder with the casual efficiency of planning a vacation. We boarded the plane. Business class, as I'd paid for. 3 seats together, me at the window, Emma in the middle, Derek on the aisle. "How are you feeling, Mom?" Emma asked once we were settled. "I know it's been a long day." "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just tired." "You should drink some water. You had that bottle in your bag, right? It's important to stay hydrated on long flights." There it was. The casual suggestion, the gentle push toward consuming the poison. "Good thinking," I said, retrieving the replacement bottle Agent Chen had given me. I watched Emma's eyes follow the bottle, saw the quick glance she exchanged with Derek. Satisfaction. Relief. They thought it had worked. They thought their plan was in motion. I took a sip of clean, safe water. Cold and refreshing, no strange taste, no toxins that would stop my heart somewhere over the Atlantic. "Thank you for planning this trip, Mom," Emma said, placing her hand over mine. "It means everything to me, to us, especially after Dad." She trailed off as if the pain was too much to continue. I squeezed her hand, my daughter's hand, the hand that had passed poison to her husband hours ago. "Your father wanted this," I said softly. "He wanted us to be close again." "And we will be," Emma replied, smiling. "Family always, Mom. Always. Until I'm dead and you can take everything," I thought. But I smiled back. "Always," I echoed. The plane began taxiing toward the runway. I looked out the window, watching New York shrink beneath us. Marcus had asked me to reconnect with Emma, to repair our fractured relationship, to be the family he'd always dreamed we could be. What devastating irony. I'd organized this trip to fulfill his dying wish, and Emma had seen it as the perfect opportunity to murder me. 3 weeks in Italy, 21 days of pretending I knew nothing. 21 days of playing the loving mother, the generous provider, while every moment was being documented by federal agents, building a case that would put my daughter in prison for decades. I'd built a business empire from nothing. I'd faced ruthless competitors, economic crashes, betrayals by business partners I'd trusted like family. But I'd never faced anything like this. Because when a stranger betrays you, it hurts. It's part of the game. You learn, you adapt, you move on. But when your own child, the daughter you carried in your body, looks you in the eyes while waiting for you to die, that's an entirely different kind of devastation. The plane lifted off, leaving solid ground behind, and I prepared myself for the hardest performance of my life. Pretending I didn't know my daughter was counting the hours until my death. Pretending I still loved her. Pretending we were still family. Because somewhere on this aircraft, 2 federal agents were watching, documenting, waiting for the perfect moment to act. And I was going to give them all the time they needed. Because when this ended, when the truth finally emerged into daylight, I wanted 0 doubt remaining. I wanted the whole world to know exactly who Emma Walsh was. And I wanted her to pay for every sacrifice Marcus and I had made, every opportunity we'd given her, every dollar we'd spent building a life she now wanted to steal from me early. The first 4 hours of the flight were exquisite torture. Emma and Derek performed their roles with chilling normalcy. They discussed the places we'd visit in Florence, the Uffizi Gallery, the Duomo, the Ponte Vecchio. They talked about Tuscan wines and trattorias with spectacular views and the leather markets we'd explore. And periodically, with rehearsed subtlety, they'd check on me. "Mom, you look a little pale. Are you feeling okay? Catherine, any chest pain? Shortness of breath? Have you been drinking enough water?" Every question was a dagger, because I knew exactly what they were looking for. They were waiting for symptoms, for the moment the poison would begin its work. I answered calmly, reassuringly. I told them I felt perfectly fine. And each time I did, I caught flashes of confusion in their eyes. Why was I still healthy? Why wasn't the poison working? At one point, Derek went to the bathroom. When he returned, I intercepted a look between him and Emma, loaded with unspoken questions. She made a tiny gesture, almost imperceptible. Give it time. I reclined my seat, pretending to sleep. But through barely open eyelids, I watched them. Emma pulled out her phone, typed something, showed the screen to Derek, while covering it with her hand. He read it, frowned, typed a response. They were communicating silently, coordinating, planning their next move. For 30 years, I'd built successful companies because I learned to read people, to detect lies in negotiations, to identify betrayals before they materialized. Those skills had made me wealthy. Now, those same skills were keeping me alive. I remembered something my first business mentor, Patricia Harrison, a 70-year-old woman with 50 years of corporate warfare experience, had taught me. Catherine, when someone betrays you, they're giving you a gift. They're showing you their true face. That information is worth more than all the money in the world. She'd been right. Emma and Derek had given me the most valuable gift possible, the truth. I opened my eyes slowly, as if waking from sleep. How long was I out? About an hour, Mom, Emma replied. Did you rest well? These seats are comfortable. Mom, there's something Derek and I wanted to discuss with you. Emma leaned closer, lowering her voice as if this were an intimate conversation. After Dad passed, you've been carrying the entire weight of the business alone. It must be exhausting. I replied neutrally, not knowing where this was heading. Yes, but it doesn't have to be. I have my MBA now. I worked at your firm for 2 years. I understand the business. Maybe it's time for you to delegate more, to give me real responsibilities. There it was, the backup plan. If I died on the plane, she'd inherit everything immediately. But if somehow the poison failed, they had plan B. Convince me to transfer control while I was still alive. More responsibilities? I kept my voice neutral. Exactly. We could start by transferring some properties into my name. You know, for tax purposes, to avoid complications with the IRS. You could also give me power of attorney over the main accounts. That way, if something were to happen to you, God forbid, everything would be in order. No legal tangles. Derek joined in immediately. It makes perfect sense, Catherine. You've worked so hard your entire life. You deserve to step back, enjoy yourself. Let Emma handle the day-to-day while you travel, relax, live your life. The life you want to end as soon as possible, I thought. That's an interesting idea, I said slowly, as if genuinely considering it. Let me think about it during the trip. Maybe when we get back to the States, we can sit down with the attorneys and explore what makes sense. I saw satisfaction bloom on their faces. They thought they'd planted the seed, that Plan B was working. There's no rush, Mom, Emma said. We just wanted you to know I'm ready, that you can count on me. The way Marcus counted on you to care for me after he died, I thought bitterly. The remaining hours passed in surreal suspension. We ate the airline meal. Derek ordered wine for all of us. We toasted to the trip, to family, to new beginnings. Every toast was a lie. Every smile was a mask. Sometime in the early morning, when the cabin was dark and most passengers slept, I felt someone watching me. I opened my eyes discreetly and spotted one of the undercover federal agents, a woman around 40, dressed like an ordinary tourist, seated 4 rows ahead with a clear line of sight to us. Our eyes met for half a second. She nodded almost imperceptibly. The message was clear. We're here. You're safe. I closed my eyes again, feeling a strange mixture of relief and anguish. I was physically safe, yes. But emotionally, I was being destroyed, piece by piece. Because every minute on that plane, every fake conversation, every gesture of false affection reminded me that my daughter wanted me dead. I thought about the important moments of her life, her first day of kindergarten, how she'd clung to my leg, crying, her high school graduation, where she'd hugged me and said, I couldn't have done this without you, Mom. Her wedding to Derek 3 years ago, a ceremony I'd paid for entirely, an event that cost more than most people's annual salaries. At that wedding, Emma had taken both my hands and said, Thank you for everything, Mom. for giving me opportunities you never had, for being the strongest woman I know. When had those words become lies? Or had they always been lies? Marcus had always been more perceptive about emotional undercurrents. I'd focused on providing, on building, on ensuring we never lacked anything material. He'd focused on the small details, the glances, the things left unsaid. I remembered another conversation, about a year before his diagnosis. We'd been in bed, him reading a mystery novel, me reviewing quarterly reports on my tablet. "Derek asked me today about your succession plan," Marcus had said suddenly. "Why?" I'd asked, without looking up from the numbers. "I don't know." He said he was curious about how business transitions typically work when founders retire, but it felt strange. Very specific questions about asset distribution, estate planning, corporate structures. He's married to our daughter. It's natural for him to be curious about the family business. Catherine. Marcus had closed his book. "Look at me." I'd looked up. He'd had that expression I knew well. The one that meant, "This is important. Pay attention." "That man isn't curious," Marcus had continued. "He's calculating. He's assessing exactly how much our family is worth, and I don't trust him." I'd told him he was being paranoid, that Derek came from a modest background. It was natural for him to be interested in a different lifestyle, that Marcus didn't need to be so suspicious. Marcus hadn't argued further. But now, remembering that conversation, I realized he'd seen the truth I'd refused to accept. Derek had never loved Emma. He'd loved what Emma represented, access to wealth. And Emma, my daughter, had been either weak enough to be manipulated or ambitious enough to participate willingly. I didn't know which option was worse. The plane began its descent toward Rome. The city sprawled below us, ancient and eternal, bathed in golden morning light. Normally, this would be thrilling. My first trip to Italy in 15 years, a chance to disconnect from work, to experience life. Instead, I felt like I was descending into a waking nightmare. "Look, Mom," Emma pointed out the window. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" "Beautiful," I repeated, feeling nothing. We landed at Leonardo da Vinci Airport at 7:30 in the morning, Rome time. The terminal bustled with travelers. The organized chaos of thousands of people moving with purpose. While we waited for our luggage, Derek went to find a restroom. Emma and I stood alone for the first time since I'd discovered their betrayal. "Mom, there's something I want to say." She looked toward where Derek had disappeared. "I know you and Dad always had reservations about him, about whether he was right for me." That surprised me. We never said that. Not in words, but I felt it. In the way Dad looked at him sometimes, in how you were always slightly distant, never quite warm with him. "Emma, let me finish." She raised her hand. "I want you to know that I love him. And I know he loves me. And I know that together we're going to make you proud. We're going to take care of you, Mom. Especially now that Dad's gone." She looked at me with earnest eyes, eyes I'd watched grow from infancy, eyes that now belonged to a stranger. "I know you'll take care of me, sweetheart," I said. The pain in my voice was completely genuine. "I've always known I could count on you." She hugged me tight. One of those embraces she used to give me as a little girl when I'd return from business trips. I hugged her back, feeling something inside me crack beyond repair. This was my daughter, the person who should protect me, honor me, cherish the time we had left together. Instead, she'd planned my murder with the casual efficiency of planning a dinner party. Derek returned. We collected our luggage and headed outside to find our driver. Rome was everything I'd imagined. Historic buildings, cobblestone streets, cafes on every corner. The Colosseum rose in the distance, magnificent and timeless. "It's incredible," Emma sighed, staring out the car window. "I've dreamed about this forever." "Well, now you're here," I said. "Thanks to this trip." "Thanks to you, Catherine," Derek added. "You made this possible." "And you wanted to thank me by killing me," I thought. Our hotel was a five-star property in the heart of Rome, steps from the Spanish Steps. I'd reserved 2 suites, one for me, one for Emma and Derek. As we entered the lobby, a well-dressed man approached me discreetly. "Miss Walsh?" he asked in English with an Italian accent. "Yes?" "Welcome to Rome. I'm Marco, the hotel manager. If you need anything during your stay, please call me directly." He handed me a business card, but when I took it, he added in a whisper, "I'm also part of the team protecting you. Agent Chen coordinated everything with us. You're safe here." I nodded slightly. Another guard in my gilded prison. We went up to our rooms. Mine was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows with views of Rome's terracotta rooftops, a king-size bed with Egyptian cotton sheets, a marble bathroom larger than the first apartment Marcus and I had shared as newlyweds. I sat on the bed, looking out at the view. Rome stretched before me, full of history and beauty and promise. But I felt nothing except exhaustion, a bone-deep weariness that transcended the physical. The room phone rang. It was Emma. "Mom, do you want to rest for a while and then meet for lunch? Or we could start sightseeing right away if you're not too tired." "Let's rest first," I replied. It was a long flight. "Perfect. Let's meet in the lobby at 2. "Sounds good, sweetheart." I hung up. It was 9 in the morning. I had 5 hours before I had to perform again. I kicked off my shoes, lay back on the bed, and for the first time since the customs officer had whispered those words at JFK, I let myself cry. I cried for Marcus, for not listening when he'd warned me about Emma and Derek. I cried for my daughter, for the child she'd been and the woman she'd become. And I cried for myself, for the fool who'd worked her entire life building an empire for her family, never realizing that family was simply waiting for her to die so they could claim it. Something must be deeply broken in a mother who raises a daughter capable of murder. Something I did wrong, something I failed to teach her, some value I didn't instill. Was it because I worked too much? Because I missed too many school plays and parent-teacher conferences? Because I gave her too much money, too much comfort, made life too easy? I had no answers, only questions that tortured me. The phone rang again. I ignored it. It rang 3 more times before I finally answered. "Miss Walsh." It was Marco, the manager. "Forgive the intrusion. I wanted to inform you that your daughter came to the front desk a few minutes ago. She asked some questions about you." My blood froze. "What kind of questions?" "She asked if we had a doctor on call. She mentioned you have a history of heart problems and wanted to ensure that in case of emergency, we'd know who to contact." I felt ice in my veins. "I don't have any history of heart problems." "I know, Miss Walsh. That's why I'm calling. Your daughter is setting the stage. When they expect something to happen to you, they want the hotel staff to already believe you had cardiac issues. That way, it'll look natural." "What did you tell her?" "Nothing specific. I thanked her for the information and assured her we'd have everything prepared. But I wanted you to know." "Thank you, Marco." Sophia. I hung up, feeling rage beginning to replace sadness. They didn't just want me dead. They wanted my death to look natural, expected, unsuspicious. They wanted to cry at my funeral, accept condolences, inherit my fortune, and have no one ever suspect they'd orchestrated everything. And they probably would have succeeded. If not for behavioral analyst training at an airport, if not for that stroke of extraordinary luck that exposed their plan. I got out of bed, washed my face, studied myself in the mirror. The woman looking back appeared tired, 52 years old, but looking closer to 65. Deep circles under my eyes, lines I didn't remember having. But in those eyes, I also saw something else: determination. Because if Emma and Derek thought they'd get away with this, if they thought they could murder me and live happily on my money, they were catastrophically wrong. I'd built an empire from scratch. I'd survived economic recessions, corporate raiders, attempted hostile takeovers. I wasn't going to let my own daughter destroy me. Over the next 3 weeks, I was going to give them enough rope to hang themselves. I was going to document every lie, every manipulation, every attempt. And when it was over, when the federal agents had ironclad evidence that would guarantee they'd never see freedom again, then I'd have my answers. Then I'd ask them why. And this time, I wouldn't accept lies. I dressed in fresh clothes, applied makeup to hide the evidence of tears, pulled my hair into a neat bun. I prepared to go downstairs and face my would-be killers with a smile. Because that's what a successful CEO does: adapt to impossible situations and maintain control. And this was the most important negotiation of my life. Not for money or market share or corporate power, for justice and for Marcus's memory, for the man who'd warned me and whom I hadn't listened to. This time I was going to listen. This time I was going to act. And this time the truth was going to prevail, no matter how much it destroyed me. At 2 o'clock sharp, I descended to the hotel lobby. Emma and Derek were already waiting, dressed like perfect tourists. She wore a sundress with sandals, a camera around her neck. He wore khakis and a linen shirt, sunglasses perched on his head, the ideal couple, the devoted daughter and son-in-law, the patient murderers. "Mom," Emma approached with enthusiasm. "Did you rest well?" "Like a baby," I lied. "Ready to see Rome?" "More than ready," Derek replied. "I booked us a private tour. They'll take us to all the major sites." We spent the afternoon being tourists: the Colosseum, the Roman Forum, the Trevi Fountain. Emma took photographs constantly. Pictures of her and Derek kissing in front of ancient ruins. Pictures of the three of us together, smiling like a happy family. Evidence for later. For when I was dead and they wanted to show the world how close we'd been, how sudden and tragic my death had been. During dinner at a restaurant overlooking the Tiber River, Derek raised his wine glass. "To Marcus," he said with emotion in his voice. "Wherever he is, I know he's happy seeing us here together." "To Marcus," I repeated, feeling my husband's name like a blade through my heart. We clinked glasses, candlelight reflecting off the wine. A beautiful moment, worthy of a postcard. Except everything was a lie. "Mom, I wanted to bring up something again," Emma said after we'd ordered dessert. "Have you thought more about what we discussed on the plane? About giving me more control at the company?" "I have thought about it," I replied carefully. "But these are significant decisions. I don't want to rush." I saw frustration flash across her face before she controlled it. Of course. There's no rush. I just thought, since we're here, relaxed, away from the office, we could discuss it calmly." "Emma's right," Derek added. "It would be good to have a clear plan, especially considering your health." "My health?" I asked with a neutral tone. "Well, you've been under tremendous stress. Your husband's death, running the companies alone, this trip." Ashley touched my hand with manufactured concern. "We just want to make sure that if something happens, God forbid, everything's properly arranged." There it was again, laying groundwork, planting seeds that I was fragile, stressed, on the verge of collapse. "I appreciate your concern," I said, "but I feel perfectly fine. Better than I have in months, actually." The two exchanged another loaded glance. That night, back in my room, I received a call from an unknown number. "Ms. Walsh, this is Agent Sarah Martinez. I work with Agent Chen. Can you speak freely?" "Yes, I'm alone." "Good. I wanted to update you. We've been monitoring all communications from your daughter and son-in-law. Last night, while you were sleeping on the plane, she sent an encrypted message to a contact in Miami." "What did it say?" "Didn't work. Need plan B. 3 weeks to fix it." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of those words. Plan B is convincing me to transfer control of my companies before the trip ends. Correct. We also have reason to believe they're exploring other options, more direct options. Meaning? Meaning we need to be extremely careful over the next 3 weeks. Don't eat or drink anything they give you directly. Don't go anywhere isolated with them alone. And if you feel you're in immediate danger, call this number. She gave me a number I memorized instantly. "How much longer do you need for sufficient evidence?" Ideally, we want to catch them attempting something else. The airport poisoning is strong, but a skilled defense attorney could argue the evidence was planted, the footage manipulated, that your daughter is innocent. But if they try again, if we document a pattern of behavior, there's no doubt. You need me to let them try to kill me again, I finished for her. I know it's a lot to ask, Ms. Walsh, but we need you to hold on just a little longer. After hanging up, I stood on my balcony, looking out at Rome's lights. The city glowed in the darkness, ancient and beautiful, full of secrets and history. I remembered when I'd promised Marcus I'd bring him here someday. When I have time, I'd always said, when the business is more stable, when I can take a few weeks off. That time never came. There was always something more urgent. A deal to close, a crisis to manage, a competitor to outmaneuver. And now I was here, in the city he dreamed of visiting, accompanied by the daughter he'd adored and who'd planned my murder. Life has a cruel way of teaching us our mistakes. The following days followed a similar pattern. We visited museums, walked through ancient streets, ate at restaurants Marcus would have loved. And throughout it all, Emma and Derek maintained their flawless performance. But I'd learned to read the signs. The moments when Derek typed messages on his phone and quickly pocketed it when I approached. The conversations that ended abruptly when I entered a room. The looks they exchanged when they thought I wasn't watching. On the fourth day in Rome, Derek made a suggestion. There's a place outside the city, he said during breakfast. An ancient villa, barely known to tourists. I thought we could rent a car and drive there. Just the three of us. No tour groups, no crowds. More intimate, like real family. Every instinct screamed danger. Sounds interesting, I said cautiously. How far is it? About 90 minutes by car. Beautiful drive, through the countryside, past vineyards and olive groves. It would be an adventure. I don't know, Derek. Driving in a foreign country, on roads we don't know. I'll drive, he interrupted quickly. You and Emma can relax and enjoy the scenery. It'll be incredible, Catherine. I promise. Emma nodded enthusiastically. It would be nice to have a day just for us, more personal, like a real family should be. My mind calculated rapidly. An isolated location, far from witnesses, no security cameras, the perfect setting for an accident. Let me think about it, I said. Maybe tomorrow. Today, I'd like to stay in the city. I saw frustration cross their faces, quickly masked with smiles. Of course, Mom, whatever you prefer. That afternoon, while Emma and Derek went shopping, I met secretly with Marco in a private office at the hotel. Your son-in-law reserved a car for tomorrow, he informed me. A large sedan. He also asked about scenic routes outside Rome, specifically isolated areas away from main tourist zones. Can you follow us without them noticing? Already arranged. We'll have 2 tracking vehicles, one close, one at distance. We've also installed a GPS tracker in the rental car. He handed me a small device, no bigger than a lipstick case. If you press this button twice, it sends an immediate emergency signal. We'll have agents at your location within minutes. It uses satellite, works anywhere, even without cell service. I slipped it into my pocket, feeling its weight like a protective charm. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake imagining scenarios. What would they do? Stage a car accident? Push me off a cliff and claim I'd lost my balance? Try poison again? This time without witnesses to interfere? My daughter, my own flesh and blood, planning the details of my death with the same casualness most people use to plan a weekend getaway. At 3 a.m, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Intercepted new communication. Emma wrote, tomorrow at the villa. Perfect location. No one around. Just do it quickly. Stay alert. Don't go anywhere alone with them. I deleted the message, got up, poured myself vodka from the minibar, and sat by the window. Rome slept below, the city of emperors and artists and lovers. There's a moment in every mother's life when she realizes her child is no longer who she thought they were, that they've become their own person, capable of choices and actions that shock you to your core. I'd had that moment years ago when Emma graduated with her MBA and announced she wanted to work for me. I'd felt proud then, thought we'd finally found common ground, something to build together. But I'd been wrong. Emma never wanted to build with me. She only wanted to wait for me to build everything, then take it. Morning arrived too quickly. I went down to breakfast and found Emma and Derek already packed and ready, vibrating with anticipation like children on a field trip. "Mom, we thought you'd changed your mind about the villa," Emma said. "No, I just slept badly, but I'm ready. Let's go." The car was a sleek Mercedes. Derek took the driver's seat. Emma rode shotgun, me in the back like a child, like someone without control of her own fate. We left Rome on progressively smaller roads. Buildings gave way to rolling green hills, villages with stone houses, ancient churches. It was stunning, I had to admit, also isolated. Perfect for what they'd planned. "How about we stop there?" Emma pointed toward a scenic overlook with valley views. "We could take some photos." Derek pulled over. We got out. The wind blew hard, carrying scents of wild herbs and distant rain. The overlook had a metal railing, old and rusty. Beyond it, a cliff dropped about 100 feet to rocky ground below. Emma started taking pictures. Derek stood next to me at the railing. "It's breathtaking, isn't it?" he said. "The view." "Breathtaking," I repeated. Every muscle in my body tensed. "Catherine, I want you to know something." His voice changed, became more serious. "These weeks with you have meant everything to Emma. After Marcus died, she felt like she was losing you too. But this trip has shown her how much she still has her mother." The perfect words, the ideal tone. If I didn't know the truth, I'd be moved to tears. "I need you too, sweetheart," I said. And I wasn't entirely acting. Despite everything, part of me still desperately wanted to believe there was goodness in her. "Come stand here closer." He guided me nearer to the edge. "Emma, get a picture of us here." She raised the camera. I was at the cliff's edge. Derek behind me. One push. That's all it would take. A quick shove, and I'd fall 100 feet. Broken bones, massive trauma, near instant death, and they'd cry at my funeral, telling the tragic story of how their beloved mother lost her balance while posing for a family photo. "Smile, Catherine," Emma called out. Time slowed. I felt Derek's hands on my back, not pushing yet, just positioning me, guiding me. "A little more to the left," he directed. I took a step. My heels were inches from empty air. "Perfect," Emma said. On 3. My hand went to my pocket, fingers closing around the emergency device Marco had given me. 1, 2. Derek's hands pressed slightly harder against my back. 3. The sound of a car approaching at high speed cut through the air. Derek's hands jerked away from me immediately. I stepped forward quickly, away from the edge, my heart hammering like a drum. An Italian police car appeared on the road. 2 officers emerged, walking toward us with serious expressions. "Buongiorno," one greeted us. "Excuse the interruption. We're conducting security checks in the area. May we see your identification?" Emma and Derek looked at each other, confusion mixed with fear. "Of course, officer," I said, retrieving my passport with trembling hands. The police examined our documents with professional calm, but I noticed how one officer looked at me with meaning. "Another undercover agent. Everything is in order," he finally said, returning our passports. "Enjoy your visit to Italy. And please be careful near the cliff edge. We've had several accidents here in recent years." The message was unmistakable. We saw everything. We're here. The police left. Emma and Derek seemed rattled. "How strange," Emma murmured. "Security checks in the middle of nowhere?" "They must be looking for someone," Derek said, but his voice sounded strained. "We should probably continue to the villa." The rest of the day passed without further incidents. We toured the ancient villa, had lunch at a countryside restaurant, returned to Rome at sunset. But something had shifted. Emma and Derek were quieter, more cautious, as if they sensed invisible eyes watching them. That night, Agent Martinez called again. "It was too close today," she said without preamble. "Far too close. If our officers hadn't arrived at that exact moment." "I know. Miss Walsh, we need to consider ending this now, arresting them before they make another attempt." "Do you have enough evidence?" Silence on the other end. "Not as much as we'd like. Their attorneys could argue today's incident was innocent, that they were just positioning you for a photograph. We don't have definitive proof of intent." "Then we continue," I said firmly, "until you have it. Miss Walsh?" "Agent Martinez, I've spent my life making difficult decisions. This is just another one. I need this resolved completely, definitively. No doubts, no possibility of them escaping on technicalities. I understand, but please be extremely vigilant. We don't know what they'll try next." After hanging up, I poured myself another drink. My hands no longer shook. Instead, I felt a strange calm settling over me, because I'd finally understood something crucial. I held the power here. Emma and Derek thought they were predators hunting prey, but they were wrong. I was leading them exactly where I wanted them. I was documenting every lie, every attempt, every moment of betrayal. And when this ended, when they sat in prison cells wondering how it all went so catastrophically wrong, they'd understand the truth. You were never the hunter's children. You were just fools with a plan that never had a chance of succeeding. Because your mother didn't build an empire by being naive, and I wasn't going to start now. The following days were a macabre dance of manufactured normalcy. We visited Vatican City, walked through the Sistine Chapel, stood in awe beneath Michelangelo's masterpiece. We toured the Pantheon, threw coins in the Trevi Fountain, ate gelato on the Spanish Steps. Any observer would see a loving family enjoying a dream vacation. But I knew the truth. Every smile concealed calculation. Every embrace masked betrayal. Every "I love you, Mom" that left Emma's lips was a dagger wrapped in silk. On the 7th day in Rome, something changed. We were having dinner at a rooftop restaurant when Derek received a call. He excused himself, went outside to answer, returned 10 minutes later, looking pale. "What happened?" Emma asked, her worry sounding genuine for the first time. "That was my business partner in Miami. There are problems with one of the projects I'm managing. Serious problems. I need to handle some things urgently." "What kind of problems?" I asked. "Nothing critical, Catherine. Just administrative complications. But I need to make calls, review documents. Would you mind if Emma and I skip tomorrow's sightseeing? I need to work from the room." "Of course, Derek. Business comes first." That night, after everyone had retired, Agent Martinez called with an update. "We know what that call was about," she told me. "It wasn't his business partner. It was someone from a collections agency in Miami. Your daughter and son-in-law have massive debts you don't know about." "How massive?" "Nearly $600,000. High-interest loans, some from legitimate banks, others from sources with organized crime connections." My breath caught. 600,000? It appears they invested in a cryptocurrency scheme that collapsed. Then, trying to recover their losses, they took out more loans for another venture that also failed. The creditors are threatening legal action. Some are threatening worse. Everything crystallized into horrible clarity. This wasn't just greed, it was desperation. "That's why they need the money now," I whispered. "They can't wait for me to die naturally in 20 or 30 years. "Exactly." We also found evidence that Emma was researching untraceable poisons online, how to simulate heart attacks, inheritance laws, estate planning, all from her personal devices. Is that enough to arrest them? Almost. We need one final piece. We need to catch them attempting something else, or we need them to confess. Get them talking while you're wearing a wire, and we'd have everything we need. I remained silent, processing the proposal. "You want me to confront my daughter, force her to admit she's trying to kill me?" I know it's asking the impossible. But it's the surest path to a conviction without any possibility of appeal. A confession, recorded in her own voice, explaining motives and methods. If they become violent, we'll have agents seconds away. At the first sign of physical danger, we intervene. But we need them to speak first. I spent the rest of that night sleepless, mentally preparing for what I'd have to do. The next day, Emma and Derek said they'd be occupied all morning with work calls. It was the perfect opportunity. But first, I needed to know more about these debts. I called my accountant in New York, Robert, a man who'd worked with me for 20 years. "Miss Walsh, what a pleasure. How's Italy?" he asked. "Complicated, Robert. I need you to investigate something for me, discreetly," I replied. "Anything you need," he assured me. "Look into my daughter's finances. Everything. Bank accounts, credit cards, loans, investments. Everything you can access legally. Is there a problem?" he asked. "Just do it. Send me a complete report before this afternoon," I replied. 4 hours later, I had the report in my email. I read it in my room, feeling rage building with every page. Emma and Derek didn't just owe $600,000. They owed nearly $900,000 to various lenders, some legitimate, others clearly connected to criminal enterprises. They'd invested in a cryptocurrency operation that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. They'd lost everything within 8 months. Then, desperate to recover, they borrowed more money for another guaranteed investment that also collapsed. And throughout this time, while sinking deeper into debt, they'd maintained a luxury lifestyle. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants, exotic vacations, all charged to credit cards they could no longer pay. The report included copies of threatening messages from creditors, increasingly severe warnings. "You have until month's end, or there will be serious consequences. We know where you live. Would be unfortunate if something happened." My daughter wasn't just trying to kill me out of greed. She was trying to kill me to save herself. That afternoon, while Emma and Derek remained locked in their suite, I met with a team of federal agents in a different hotel room. Agent Martinez was a sharp-eyed woman in her early 40s with short, dark hair and an expression that had seen everything. "This is a nearly invisible microphone," she explained, attaching it inside my blouse. "It transmits in real time. We'll hear everything and be ready to intervene if necessary." How do I get her to talk? Tell her you know about the debts, that you discovered everything. Watch her panic. Panicked people make mistakes, say things they shouldn't. If you can make them feel cornered, make them think honesty is their only escape, they'll talk. And if it doesn't work, then we arrest them with the evidence we have and hope it's enough. But it won't guarantee a conviction. I looked in the mirror, a 52-year-old woman with a hidden microphone, preparing to confront her murderous daughter. How had my life arrived at this point? At 7 that evening, I knocked on Emma and Derek's suite door. He answered, surprised. "Mom, everything okay?" "I need to talk to both of you. It's important." Emma appeared behind him, her expression wary. "Sure, Mom. Come in." I entered. The suite looked chaotic. Clothes scattered everywhere. Documents covering the table. Laptops open with spreadsheets visible. I sat on the sofa. They sat across from me. The tension was palpable. "What's wrong?" Emma asked. "You look serious." "We need to talk about money," I said directly. "Specifically about your debts." I watched her face drain of color. Derek went rigid. "My debts? I don't know what you—" "Don't lie to me," I interrupted coldly. "I know everything, Emma. The loans, the failed investments, the $900,000 you owe. Everything." Deadly silence. I could hear my own heartbeat. "Mom, I was going to tell you." "When?" My voice cut like ice. "When were you going to tell me? After I was dead and you could pay your debts with my inheritance?" Emma stood abruptly. "I don't know what you're insinuating, but—" "Sit down," I commanded with authority I didn't know I still possessed. Both of you, sit down and let me speak. They sat. Emma had tears forming in her eyes. Real or performed? I know you're in trouble, I continued. I know the creditors are threatening you. I know you thought the only solution was my death. No. Emma jumped up again. Mom, never. I would never. The poison at the airport. I said the words like detonating bombs. I saw everything, Emma. The security cameras captured you passing that vial to Derek. Captured him pouring it into my water bottle. Something designed to kill me. All color vanished from her face. Derek opened his mouth, but no sound emerged. I also know about the cliff, I continued relentlessly, positioning me at the edge, waiting for the perfect moment to push me. If those police hadn't appeared... Mom, please, you have to understand. Emma's voice shattered completely. I didn't know what else to do. The creditors said they'd hurt Derek, said they knew where we lived, knew our routines. I was terrified. And your solution was to murder me? It wasn't murder, she shouted. It was just to make you sleep on the plane. So when we landed, you'd feel sick, and we'd take you to a hospital. We thought if doctors said you had heart problems, you might decide to transfer some assets to me, reduce your stress. Liar, I said flatly. The lab analysis showed exactly what it was. At the dose you used, I would have died over the Atlantic Ocean. Real tears streamed down Emma's face now. She dropped to her knees before me. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was desperate, not thinking clearly. Emma and I were so scared. These creditors aren't normal people, Mom. They're criminals. They said they'd give us until month's end, or they'd kill you? My voice was pure ice. So you decided it was better if they killed me instead? No, it wasn't like that. I needed time. I needed money quickly. And I thought if something happened to you, if I died, you'd inherit everything and could pay your debts. Silence. A silence worth more than any confession. Derek finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. It was my idea, all of it. Emma didn't want to, but I convinced her. I told her it was the only way, that you were already old. That I was going to die soon anyway, I finished. That what did a few years matter, more or less. He started crying too, but I felt zero compassion. Do you know what the saddest part of this is? I asked quietly. It's not that you tried to kill me. It's that you didn't even have the courage to be honest with me. If Emma had come to me and said, Mom, I'm in terrible trouble. I made mistakes. I need help. I would have helped. I would have paid every penny of those debts. I would have protected my daughter. Mom, Emma reached toward me. But instead of trusting me, you decided murder was easier. You decided my life was worth less than your debts. And that, sweetheart, is something I will never forgive. Please, Emma begged, give me a chance. I can change. I can fix this. Just don't call the police. Please, Mom, I'm your daughter. Your only daughter. You are my daughter, I nodded. And that's precisely why this hurts so much. I stood from the sofa. They both looked up at me from the floor, broken, waiting for my verdict. You have two options, I said with absolute firmness. First option, I call the police right now. With the confession you just made, with all the evidence we've gathered, you'll spend decades in prison. Both of you. Emma sobbed harder. What's the second option? Derek asked, voice cracking. The second option is that tomorrow morning you return to the States. I'm going to give you enough money to pay all your debts. Every dollar. The creditors will leave you alone. I saw hope flare in their eyes. But, I continued, you never contact me again. You never speak to me. You never see me. For all practical purposes, I no longer have a daughter, and you no longer have a mother. Mom, no. And if you ever try anything against me again, if you threaten me, if you seek me out, if you try to claim inheritance after my death, all this evidence goes straight to law enforcement. Understood? Is that all? Derek asked incredulously. You're just going to let us go? Not out of kindness, I clarified. I'm doing it for Marcus's memory. He made me promise I'd take care of Emma. This, as much as it destroys me, is the only way I can keep that promise without betraying my own dignity. I accept, Emma said immediately. I accept, Mom. Whatever you say. Tomorrow at 6 in the morning, you'll have plane tickets in your email. At 7, a bank transfer for $900,000. More than enough to cover your debts and start fresh. What you do with your lives after that is no longer my concern. And punishment? Emma asked with a trembling voice. There's no punishment? I looked directly into her eyes. The punishment, sweetheart, is that you'll live the rest of your lives knowing you tried to murder the woman who gave you life. That you destroyed a family over debts that could have been resolved with one honest conversation. That, Emma, is worse than any prison. I walked toward the door. Emma crawled after me, grabbing my leg. Mom, please don't leave like this. I can't live without you. You're all I have left. I stopped, looked down at her. My daughter on her knees, begging. You should have thought of that before you put poison in my water. I opened the door and left. The last sounds I heard were Emma's desperate sobs. Forgive me. Please, Mom, forgive me. I closed the door. In the hallway, Agent Martinez waited with 2 other officers. We recorded everything, she said. Full confession, motives, methods, everything. More than enough to arrest them immediately. No, I said, firmly. I'm keeping my word. I'll give them the money. I'll let them go. Miss Walsh, they tried to murder you. Multiple times. I know. But these are the consequences I choose. And believe me, living with what they've done will be worse than any prison sentence. The agent studied me for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. It's your decision, but we'll keep the file open. If you ever need it, if they violate the agreement, we'll arrest them with the full force of the law. Fair enough. But until then, this ends here. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in 3 weeks. Part of my nightmare was over. The next morning at 6, I knocked on their suite door. Derek opened, eyes red and swollen. Behind him, suitcases were already packed. The taxi's waiting downstairs. I said, tickets are in your email. The money will hit your account within the hour. Mom, There's nothing more to say, I interrupted. Live your lives, be better people. But be far from me. Emma appeared behind him, her face ravaged by tears. I'm so sorry, she whispered. For everything. Me too, I replied. I'm sorry it came to this. I watched them take their luggage, accompanied them to the elevator. When the doors opened, Emma turned one last time. Will you ever forgive me? I thought of Marcus, of his final words. Take care of our daughter. Maybe, I said finally. But not today, and probably not tomorrow. If that day comes, I'll let you know. The elevator doors closed, and just like that, my daughter vanished from my life. I returned to my suite, sat on the balcony, watching sunrise paint Rome in gold and rose. The eternal city woke slowly, full of promise and new beginnings. My phone rang. It was my other daughter, Sophia, calling from San Francisco. Mom, I saw Emma posted something weird on social media about returning home early. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, honey, I replied. And for the first time in weeks, it was true. Just some necessary changes. Changes? I'll explain when I get home. But right now, I just want you to know I love you very much. And I appreciate that you've always been honest with me. I love you too, Mom. Come home soon. After hanging up, I gazed at the Roman skyline. Marcus and I had dreamed of coming here together. That dream never materialized. But maybe I could create new dreams. With Sophia, with her children, with people who genuinely valued me. I spent the next 2 weeks alone in Rome and discovered something surprising. I enjoyed every single moment. I visited museums without pretending interest during fake conversations. I ate at restaurants without monitoring my drinks for poison. I walked through ancient streets without feeling predatory eyes tracking me. And slowly, very slowly, I began to heal. One afternoon, sitting at a cafe near the Pantheon, I wrote a letter. Not to send, just to process my thoughts. Dear Marcus, I kept my promise to take care of Emma, but not the way you expected. I saved her from prison. I gave her money to escape her troubles, but I also had to let her go. I hope you understand. I hope wherever you are, you know I made the right choice. Because loving someone sometimes means letting them face consequences of their actions. I miss you every day, but I'm learning to live again. Not just survive, but truly live. Until we meet again, Catherine. I folded the letter, tucked it in my wallet. Maybe someday I'd bury it beside his grave, or burn it in some ritual of release. For now, it just needed to exist. I returned to the States 2 weeks later. Sophia picked me up at JFK with her 2 kids. The children ran toward me screaming, "Grandma!" And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. "How was Italy?" Sophia asked while driving toward my house. "Revealing," I replied, in ways I never imagined. She glanced at me. "Emma won't talk to me. She says there was a problem between you two, but won't give details." "What happened, Mom?" "Someday I'll tell you everything, but not today. Today I just want to get home, hug my grandchildren, and start fresh. This is Revenge Stories, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you feel my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Help us build this community so we can bring more interesting and exciting stories for you from around the world. Your help is much appreciated. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. 6 months have passed since Rome. 6 months without contact with Emma. According to her bank records, which I still monitor discreetly, she paid all her debts and moved to another state with Derek. I don't know if they're happy. I don't know if they learned anything. I probably never will. But I've learned something crucial. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by loyalty, respect, genuine love. Sophia and her children visit every week. We have dinner together. I play with the kids, listen to their stories. It's a simpler life than before, but infinitely richer. I've also been changing my will. The majority of my fortune will go to Sophia, another portion to charities, and a small part will remain in a trust for Emma. Not because she deserves it, but because her father would have wanted it. But that trust comes with conditions. Requirements for therapy, genuine employment, demonstration of real change. I don't know if she'll ever claim it. Maybe yes, maybe no. Yesterday, I received a letter. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. Mom, I know I have no right to write to you. I know I broke something that can never be repaired. But I need you to know that not a day passes without me regretting what I did. Derek and I separated. He went back to his family. I'm living alone, working a regular job, paying rent like anyone else. I started therapy. My therapist says I have a lot of work ahead, that I need to repair not just what I did to you, but understand why I became someone capable of that. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Not yet. I'm just telling you I'm trying to be better. If someday, maybe in many years, you think we can talk, I'll be waiting. Your daughter, Emma. I've read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and placed it in my desk drawer. Maybe someday I'll respond. Maybe someday we can have an honest conversation. But today is not that day. Today I'm simply a 52-year-old woman who survived a murder attempt by her own daughter. A woman who chose justice over revenge. A woman learning to live again. And for now, that's enough. If you're listening to this story and it resonates with you somehow, if you're afraid of your own family, if you feel you can't trust the people who should protect you, I want to tell you something. You're not alone, and you're not crazy for feeling this way. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are those who share our blood, and it's okay to walk away. It's okay to protect yourself. It's okay to choose your own peace over blind family loyalty. True family is earned, not inherited. And if I could survive this, you can survive whatever you're facing. Be careful, trust your instincts, and remember, your life has value, no matter what others try to make you believe. Thank you for listening to my story, for accompanying me on this painful but necessary journey. Protect yourself. And never, never let anyone make you feel your life is worth less than their convenience. Because your life is valuable. Always was, always will be. And that's something no one, not even your own blood, has the right to take away.